There are many people looking apprehensively at what is going on in the States following George Floyd's murder at the hands of a police officer. And we see signs of violence, both with the protesters, but also with, in some cases, excessive force of the police officers. And I have several concerns about this. The first of which is that we must always keep in mind that the media focuses on the sensational. So all over the country, there have been peaceful demonstrations going on without any rioting, without any violence. But what gets recorded, unfortunately, are the negative situations because they're more dramatic. So at the very outset, I want to acknowledge that as part of the issue. But I also want to stress that this dichotomy of violence to use to try and disrupt society and violence used to enforce society is a false dichotomy. And I think we can get to a better solution if we actually look at the life of George Floyd himself. And he was known as Big Floyd by his friends. And I want to talk a little bit about the title that his friends had given him, and that is a man of peace. And when we hear that, we think, well, he was a man of peace. He believed in peace. You could also say that he was against violence because he certainly spoke against violence. Those things are true. But that is not what they meant when they said he was a man of peace. In fact, they were quoting Jesus when they said he was a man of peace. And I'm going to just look briefly at that passage now. It's found in Luke 10, beginning in verse 1. It says, "At this, the Lord appointed 72 others and sent them 2 by 2 ahead of him to every town and place where he was about to go. He told them, 'The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field. Go, I am sending you out like lambs among wolves. Do not take a purse or a bag or sandals, and do not greet anyone on the road. When you enter a house, first say, peace to this house. If there is a man of peace there, your peace will rest on him. If not, it will return to you. Stay there, eating and drinking whatever they give you, for the worker deserves his wages. Do not move around from house to house.'" Now that may seem far removed from our society today, but it's exactly the role that Big Floyd played in his home community. I don't know all the details about Big Floyd's conversion, how he came to be a follower of Jesus. I know that he continued to have struggles, and that may be reflected in there being drugs in his system when he passed away. I don't know, and I don't want to get into those details because they don't matter. He claimed to be a follower of Jesus, and he was known by his friends as a man of peace in this sense that's in this scripture. And what does it mean? Well, when Jesus sent out these 72 men, probably, they may have been men and women, I don't know for sure, but the point is that when he sent them out, he said, find a man or a person of peace and stay with them. These people would be those who would be open to the gospel, who would be respected in their community, that could act as a bridge between the disciples and the community at large. They couldn't just go to any town and start standing on a street corner and expect to be heard. They would find these people of peace. They would introduce them to other people in the community, and they would testify to these people being legitimate, being people of integrity, being people that you should listen to. That's exactly the way Floyd lived his life. He was a mentor to many young men. I'm just going by what I've read on the internet. I never knew him, but I have heard these stories concerning him. Now you may say, well, what does that have to do with him being killed? What does that have to do with the riots? What is the gospel telling us? Floyd had been a man who was not above using violence. What changed? What is it in the gospel that made him believe that he should invest his life in it? Well, in the good news, we learn that there is no Jew or Gentile, no slave or free, no male or female, but all are one in Jesus Christ. We further learn that each and every human being is made in the image of God. Now, that theology may seem far removed from the problems we're facing today, but if you think about it, you will see that there's a profound basis for justice in this case. If we understand and acknowledge these pieces of good news found within the gospel, we could transform society. And in an age and a time when culture is turning its back on Christianity, when we see very surface lip service to the Christian faith, we can think that there is no value in this faith. But my concern is that if we do not recognize the source for our call for justice coming from our Christian heritage, and if we think that it just came out of thin air, we are going to lose the basis for any true justice. The quest for group power is not a solution, because it doesn't matter who you are. When you have power, if that's all you believe in, you are going to do the same to others that you had done to you. It is only as we understand the universal brotherhood of every human being that we can truly find a bedrock of justice, so that everyone is considered the same in the eyes of God and in the eyes of our ethics. It's also, by the way, a reason why I rail against unguided evolution, as if we're all a bunch of random molecules that just happen to come together by accident. It's nonsense, and it's dangerous. So I trust that in the midst of all of the protests and all of the talk that's going on, that you would take time to look at Floyd's life. That he was a man who sought to be a bridge to the gospel because he saw in it a truth that could transform not only his community, but his country and the world. Think on that. Think about what was lost in that tragic death. May God bless you.